Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on a lovely Saturday morning for a very, very interesting and I think very relevant topic for India and for the IoT ecosystem in India today. But before we start, I will set some just quick background and context for all of you on the call. Just to let you know, what you see on your screen is a live telecast of the presentation today by all our speakers. So it is a video broadcast done through a production room, number one. Number two, at the bottom of the screen that you will see two options. There is a button called as quiz, okay? And I will let you know when you need to hit that button to place a quiz, which is at the end of the event today. There's also a button called as feedback. Again, I will instruct you when you can give feedback, which will be almost at the end of the event today. So don't press those two buttons yet. Also, just to let you know, there is a link to our LinkedIn group of Napino. So please feel free to click that and follow us, our company, as and when you like. Okay, so we will wait another 1 minute for giving and allowing the time for other attendees to join. We have quite a few people already on the call today. I'm very excited. I hope you are excited as well. So let us just wait for another 60 seconds. Meanwhile, just to repeat my instructions, there is a quiz button and a feedback button. You will play the quiz at the end of the event after the panel discussion, and I will give you the instructions accordingly. And post that, we will also capture your feedback. So let us allow people to join. Ashish and Mayur, please, Ashish and Anshul, please keep giving me feedback on the WhatsApp group that things are going okay. Okay, if there is any challenge, we have the private chat and the WhatsApp group. Okay. Okay, so I think we should get going now. It's already 10:02. I will once again welcome all the audience and participants today, and also our esteemed keynote speaker and our panelist for the event today, which is around manufacturing as a service for the IoT ecosystem. I will just repeat quickly the instructions. You should see the video live on the stage for all the participants. The quiz and the feedback option will become active at the end of the event, and I will instruct you accordingly. So good morning, everyone. I think as all of us basically would realize in India, the ecosystem for digital transformation technologies such as IoT or AI and blockchain, it's growing very rapidly. There are a lot of players, a lot of startups, and in fact, enterprise and corporate that have started building innovative solutions, both in terms of applications, in terms of hardware, in terms of software, and so on, and services as well. I think what we have realized recently, with all the recent global events going on, there is a big shift that is likely to happen in the next few years, where India and countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, they are going to focus more on manufacturing as a service to provide an alternative to China. Of course, our dear PM has also launched Atmanirbhar Bharat as one of the initiative for the country, so that India can become self-reliant and self-capable to manufacture high-end products and devices, or even applications that can become a global phenomena. Today, I think we are going to talk about two key areas between our keynote presentation to our panel discussion and all our four speakers. It's what is required for India to become that manufacturing global powerhouse, number one. Number two, what is already happening? What are some of the challenges that IoT ecosystem providers are facing? And second, what kind of investment, what kind of support is required, both by the enterprises, by the corporates, the support by the government in terms of policies, and the designing aspects of IoT hardware, both from a reliability and security perspective. So without any further ado, I will introduce our keynote speaker for today, Mr. Naveen Kumar. Mr. Naveen is the Group CEO of Napino Auto and Electronics Private Limited. Napino is one of the largest automotive electronic component manufacturer in India, being present for more than 20 plus years. And Mr. Naveen brings 3 decades of experience in the industry, ranging from working for different companies like Veroc and for Asia and Subarus, and for the past 8 years at Napino. So I would like to invite Mr. Naveen Kumar on the stage and hand it over to him to take it forward. Meanwhile, I will share the screen and the presentation from my side. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Hi, good morning, all of you, and welcome to this first session of webinar from Napino. And it gives me a lot of pleasure to introduce Napino as a manufacturing company. I think that is the area which we thought that is currently lagging and needs a lot of focus in India to bring about the automotive or the experience what we have in terms of manufacturing of IoT products. So I think Vinay has already given you some introduction about Napino. So Napino is basically into automotive electronics for last more than 22 years, and I mean, I feel very happy to share with you that we are one of the largest electronic manufacturing company in India, and we bring our lot of experience in manufacturing and for last 23 years. And today the volume what we are handling is around more than 20 million electronic control units are being manufactured at Napino. And yeah, not to say we have the state of the art manufacturing line, the best available in the across the globe. So in no areas or in no way we are like inferior to any of the best of manufacturing company in the world, even as compared to companies like Foxconn and also we are at that level in terms of our manufacturing system. And one of the key reason why we have come to this level is that we have in the last couple of years, in the last decade, we have had number of global tie-up with leaders in the automotive electronic field, and that has also helped us a lot to, I mean, to bridge the gap and to come to this level. And yeah, with our expertise in electronic industry, I mean, we can go to the next slide, Vinay. So these are the products what we are making. So in the top end side, you can see that the electronic units what we are making, and on the bottom side, you can see some electronic as well as some electromechanical product. We are also into very high-end products like electronic fuel injection system and the instrument cluster which goes for the automotive application. So one thing which you should try to understand that in the automotive industry, the reliability is a very key thing, and the product which is being manufactured at Napino has to be very reliable and should run for maybe 10, 15 or 20 years, without giving any trouble to the customer. So this is glimpse of the products what we are handling at Napino. Next. So we have a huge range of customers, right, from Indian as well as multinational companies, and I mean, very happy to share with you, that Napino was one of the very few companies which was approved by VW when VW came to India long back. So Napino was one of the few companies who got the approval to be a supplier to companies like Volkswagen. Yeah, next. Apart from that, we also have a very strong research and development team. So today we have around more than 120, 125 engineers who works in Napino for new product development. And the focus area for Napino in the automotive field is going into electric mobility, which is the latest trend in the automotive industry. We are also focusing a lot on emission reduction and also on connected device. So I mean, automotive itself is going to be a connected device moving forward, and even for the two-wheeler, three-wheeler to the four-wheeler, and including the commercial vehicles, they don't want to get into a connectivity level. Next. So recently, about a year and a half back, we also ventured into IoT manufacturing products, and you can see some glimpse of these pictures of the devices which we have manufactured in Napino. And you can see that it's almost covering the different type of industry, like from tracking device to a camera module to a surveillance camera. So the entire range to a wearable electronics. So everything has been manufactured in Napino, and we have a proper experience now, to deliver this type of products for the Indian R&D company, or the Indian startup company, or the Indian customers who needs these parts to be manufactured in India. So basically, what Napino is working towards, what Napino is working towards is building up a complete ecosystem for manufacturing for the IoT industry. So we understand that IoT industry is the sunrise industry, and there are many companies, small to medium to large companies, who are looking at a partner who can do a excellent manufacturing for them. So we want to put that ecosystem in India for the people to use it as a manufacturing hub. So we want to convert India into manufacturing hub for electronic products. So we have as you know, that we are very strong into the software expertise, and we lack on design and manufacturing capability. This is the area where Napino brings in a lot of expertise. And we also understand that we have to be a very cost competitive company to support the IoT ecosystem in India, to provide them a very quick turnaround at a very competitive price. So we want to really give a alternative to the people, that you don't have to look outside India. So everything will be made for you in India, near you, and you can come and you can see what we do and how we are doing. Reliability, as I told you, that reliability will be the key in the manufacturing, because manufacturing is a very diverse thing and a very complex thing, and it's not that simple, and it requires a lot of processes to make the parts very reliable, part after part. Throughout the life cycle of the product. And so we'll offer Napino as a manufacturing as a service at an affordable and acceptable lead time. And Napino also plans, to take it further. Napino also plans to launch India's first hardware accelerator to support innovative startups and their journey to become a world-class IoT company. So we want to also set up a separate company, because we can't mix up the prototyping and the initial product development with the mass production facility which we have. So we are going to set up a separate separate facility where we can do all the prototyping with the different type of people who are expert in prototyping and doing all complex manufacturing for the IoT companies in India. So I think this is a very great opportunity for all of us to work together and to bring the dream of India to become a very Atmanirbhar company as a country, as Vinay just said, which is our one of our focus area, and we want to really work towards that. And I welcome you all to please come and also see our facilities. That will give you a lot of confidence, because most of you would not have the hands-on experience at how manufacturing has been done, and that will really give you a lot of heads up that what goes into a manufacturing of a product, which is of very high technology and has to be very reliable. One of the major challenge, what we all will face, when we are doing this new product development, will be the supply chain. In the supply chain is very critical for the electronic component, and for some of the components, the lead time will go beyond 6 months to 9 months. So we really need to understand, that how do we work together to bring this, lead time very short, so that we are able to meet the market demand in a very short time. So this is all from my side, and I wish you all the best, and please have a very good discussion, and I'm sure you will have a lot of takeaways from this webinar. Thank you very much. Back to Vijay.
Thank you very much, sir, for a very, I think, insightful walkthrough of Napino and its capability, and also some of the key areas that, as an industry, we should keep in mind while focusing on that. I really thank you for that. So before we move on to the next speaker, I just want to mention that there is a Q&A button on your screen if you are dialing in from a mobile phone or from a laptop or desktop. At the bottom right, you should see a red color chatbot kind of a window. So if you have any questions, you can open that, put in your name and email, and post your question. So any question that you have for Mr. Naveen Kumar, you can post it there. I will take those questions up after around the panel discussion start time, okay, for all of you. Now, before we moving on, I just want to set the instructions once again, as now we have quite a few people who have already joined, close to 100. So I just want to keep a reminder that there is a quiz and a feedback button on your screen that you should only hit when I basically announce it. There is a LinkedIn link for Napino group that you can click to follow us. And also, I would like to now introduce two of the critical and I think very, very important partner for the event today, which is the Napino Knowledge Series around IoT Manufacturing as a Service. The community one is IoT NCR, which is one of the communities started around 4 years back. With around 8,000 plus member, it is already world's third largest IoT community, founded by some of the enthusiasts in the IoT domain, including myself, Mr. Mayur Wadhwani, Mr. Sumit Jain, and few other people who are on the call today. Then we also have second community partner, which is a community that started approximately a year back. It stands for Leaders and Innovators Forum. Short form is LIFE, L-I-F. So as you see, IoT NCR is a community for anyone, ranging from engineers to even experts and professionals or corporates. LIFE has a different focus. It is basically meant for people in the industry with good experience or innovators to come together and collaborate together. It is a community that also conducts events such as the one that we are doing today. And in the past, they have worked with companies like Cineverse, Nagaro, and so on. And they will continue to work in the future as well. So we will share some links about the communities with all of you, which you can follow and join the community as you desire to. So now, without any further delay, I will invite and I will introduce our first speaker for today, Mr. Akash Takyar. So Akash is the founder of and CEO of Leewayhertz. Leewayhertz is one of the company I know for a few years now. I know Akash for a few years now, a very innovative thinker, thought leader. The company works in multiple domains, including IoT. In fact, a few years back, I think 2 years back, the company also launched one of India's first robotic chai maker called as Hi Arya. Trust me, I'm a chai lover, and I only like a tea made in a particular way on the gas or stove with all the masala. And this robot was able to take all my instructions and make the tea that I like, including cardamom and ginger and everything. So it was very exciting to see that we could have something like this. So Akash also brings like a lot of experience in product designing and development. And his topic for today is how to build products, technology products, probably with a focus on IoT as a startup. And I will let Akash introduce anything else that I have not covered so far about him and his company. So over to you, Akash. Welcome. You might share your screen as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Vinay. Thank you for inviting me. Today, this is a very short and brief presentation. A little bit about myself. I've been building products for over last 12 years and built over 100 platforms, software and also hardware platforms. And so I had an opportunity to sit on this side of the table every day and hear people share ideas on how they want to change the world. And then I've seen the industry growing from there. So that experience put together, we have worked with multiple companies in startup and Fortune 500 companies, and we have offices in San Francisco, Chicago, and Toronto. These are some of the products that we have built, and this is where my experience is coming from, what I'm about to share. So we have built products in smart speakers. There is a company in Germany, Eton. We have built smart speakers for them. There is Riva Audio. There is a company, Mahindra. Mahindra launched us first e-scooter in 2016, Mahindra Gen Z in San Francisco, and we have built it. We have even put iPad in the cockpit. So there is an aircraft manufacturer called Cobalt, and we had an opportunity to work on the aircraft and put an iPad instead of using expensive equipment, and did a a working POC for that. Some of the work that we have done, one of the work is this enhanced geocoding algorithm that I wrote. And this algorithm is now being used by Uber and Twitter. But what I think Vinay is more excited about is this product that we built 2 years back. And this is a robotic tea machine that me and my team built. And what it does is it basically allows you to make the exact same flavor of the tea like you do it at home. So, for example, you go to a iPhone or an iPad or a computer, or even you can speak to the machine. So you stand in front of the machine and you can say, make me my favorite tea. Machine uses a camera and recognizes that, okay, Vinay is standing in front of the machine and Vinay like his adrak tea the most. So then the machine recognizes, talk to the cloud, fetches the Vinay's recipe, and then produces that recipe. And then you get it in a cup. So now we have deployed few of these machines in Bangalore, and currently we are producing thousands of these machines as we speak. So all the experience that I'm about to share now around building startups and making product is very much focused on startup. This is very important to understand. Large enterprises which come from um, money and resources, they have a different mindset. But when we are a startup and we have limited to our resources and availability, there is a different aspect to it. Like I work with decision makers at Reliance Group in their, some of their IoT initiative. The issue is that when they think about making product, they think about tens and thousands on day one. When we as a startup think about, we're thinking about making an MVP, going to the market with a smaller aspect. So um, this is something I learned from, and I agree to a TED talk from Bill Gross. He is one of the guys who invested in multiple startups, and there are 5 factors which make or fail a startup. So idea, what your product is, what you're doing, and things like that. Team together, business model, whether you are leasing, renting, and things like that. Timing of the product, when do you launch it in the market, and then the funding. So a lot of time, I ask people, what do you think is the most important factor for launching the product out of these 5? What would you say is will make the biggest impact on the success or failure of your product? And a lot of people give not give the right answer, but the right answer that looking at a lot of the companies in the past, and that is basically the timing of when you launch it. Think about as an example. Let's say you're building a 2G phone and we are already working towards 5G. So it doesn't make sense. So the timing has to be right. Or you're building, let's say, 6G phone and we haven't even completed 4G implementation or 5G yet. So you could be either too early or too late, and the timing will make a big difference of your product and its adoption. And then comes the team, which is put together. Team here, I think everybody understand. The idea is kind of very, I would say, changes over time. So, for example, we build a computer vision marketplace called appstore.ai, and where what we initially started with the idea that computer vision AI skills can be brought together and they can be enabled on every camera. But when the COVID hit, we enabled that product to detect if people are wearing a face mask or not, and if people are following social distancing in a factory or in a place or not. So that product automatically idea changed from making, let's say, other computer vision skills to just doing um, face mask and other things, and it actually worked out pretty well. Um, then I think it's a business model. So when we build a tea machine, and now we have successfully licensed it for thousands of development. We initially thought maybe we're gonna sell it, maybe we're gonna lease it, maybe we're gonna give it for free. So that can change in your startup. That's not a problem, and it can always change. Then the last thing is funding. You can see that a lot of companies who are well funded, even IoT companies or hardware startups like Jawbone and others, the money is not the deciding factor, actually, end of the day. Going back to my timing case, if you start too early, it becomes really difficult. So like I think Vinay and others are speaking about how the Indian manufacturing ecosystem is going up. So if it is too early to do something, even in POC or manufacturing, it's very hard. And if you do it too late, then it is already become very difficult for the adoption. So the right time will be to identify this curve, but that is where the biggest challenge for the startup is. You don't know whether you are too early or too late, and that's where I think some of the experience and luck plays a role. Some people ask me, can I raise funding for my, IoT or any startup that I'm doing? Majority of us is no. The answer is, but for minority, yes. I mean, you can raise funding initially when you start with family and friend, external investor. If you have done this before, like if you look at Cred by Kunal Shah, he did the free charge before, and now he has done I think a pre-seed or seed round for $30 million. So that just goes crazy how much money somebody can raise on a piece of PPT. Or you could be living in Silicon Valley, which we are not, and hopefully we can make Silicon Valley here, and that's what the goal is. But in Silicon Valley, I lived there. I know that you can change, you can get the money very easily. This is gonna be very simple thought here, that people think the MVP is about let me make let's say if I'm building a car, let me make the tire first, or the axle first, or the chassis first. Not really. Your MVP is all about maybe you make the skateboard first, and then you make a skateboard with the handle, and then the cycle and bicycle and the car. So a lot of people get confused between what your MVP is and MMP is. MVP is when you are building the product to validate an idea, and MMP is when you are building it to market. So when you go for mass manufacturing, you are probably doing an MMP. When you're doing R&D and POC, you're doing an MVP most of the time. Let me just go to the next one. This is basically, this is my experience come from that. If you're building a startup in IoT hardware software, it's important that you start going out to your potential customer and get early adopters. Doesn't mean that it will give you success, but you will get a lot of validation. So it doesn't mean if people have bought products on crowdsourcing, crowdfunding websites, all those products will be successful, but at least they get a very initial feedback to modify and change the track if required. This is the last thing I want to talk here, which is about which platform to choose. So like we work with hundreds of platforms and companies, and people ask me, Amazon versus Azure versus Google, which one to use? I think because we have worked on all three, the answer is literally you can use any one of them, whichever saves you cost. So all these companies run a lot of programs on getting advantages and saving money. Like Amazon has Founder Club, and if you go through VC, you can get almost like $100,000 free credits if you go from an accelerator. And same thing with Azure and Google. So all these platforms are maturing every day, and they provide a lot of, AWS is always in the upfront, but front runner. But for you, it is all about sending data to the cloud, doing MQTT, making some connection, device management, things like that. So most of these platforms provide you that. So I would recommend that you go ahead and look at the company that can save you cost and dollar at your early times. That's it. Thank you very much, Vinay. It's all yours.
Thank you so much, Akash, for a very, I think, interesting take and a quick take on how somebody should look at building a product startup. In fact, I think this is such an interesting area that in future, for all the audience, I would like to share that we might do a very detailed deep dive session by Akash, going like through all the different dimensions and topics of how to build a product startup. Very relevant for India today specifically, because if you have to become like a global player in IoT, we need to create more innovative ideas and support these ideas in the country. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Aastha Gupta. Aastha looks at and takes care of business development for digital transformation technologies at Dell. She is one of the thought leader in IoT domain. She speaks on various conferences and events in the past. I know her for a very long time now. I think she has worked at different companies ranging from Samsung, HCL, McKinsey, and IBM. I found that when we have like a mindset that comes from an OEM like Dell, is very interesting area to hear for all of us. That what is the expectation from a company like Dell or enterprise and OEM kind of players from the IoT ecosystem, both in terms of hardware and software. So over to you, Aastha, to take us through. Please share your screen. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. A little bit introduction about me. So thanks, Vinay, for inviting. I currently lead market development and partnerships for IoT products within Dell. And previously, as Vinay mentioned, I've been with Samsung. So I have seen the journey of large OEMs, and I was lucky to be a part of the journey when Samsung was establishing the smartphone manufacturing hub in India. Let's look at the Indian manufacturing ecosystem, especially when it comes to IoT. So what we have seen, as we have been discussing, that India kind of came of age when it came to software and services outsourcing destination. But we kind of lagged behind when it came to manufacturing. We are really mature when it comes to auto components, electronic components. But complex technology products, hardware products, that is where we are still kind of evolving. So, and within Asia, if we see, China has been the de facto hub. In fact, across the world, China has been one of the preferred destinations. So if we see today, some of the top IoT products like Nest Thermos, like be it from Google, Apple, Amazon, Samsung, most of the large OEMs are looking at IoT products manufacturing from China. And if we see, we all feel that it is probably because of the low cost, and which is definitely a reason. One of the studies which was done by Deloitte, it says that if we compare Germany to China, cost of manufacturing in Germany per hour, just the labor cost is $40. Whereas when it comes to China, it is about $3 per hour. So that is the kind of cost arbitrage when it comes to labor. But that is not the only factor. I think that was the initial factor. But then the government and the overall ecosystem in China evolved to kind of give that thrust to the market. So if we see today, even the entire, when it comes to IoT, it is all about bringing a lot of components together. So the cost of components and the availability of components within China is very high, and that makes the overall cost of producing an IoT product much cheaper. Even when I look at Dell, most of our IoT devices are currently manufactured in China. Then the second thing is faster manufacturing timelines. So since it is not a standardized manufacturing, still a lot of, if today somebody wants to do a product design, testing, and launch yeah. Hello?
Can you hear me? Aastha, I think there is some bandwidth issue from probably from your side. Your video is disconnecting or hanging a lot. Maybe can you try one thing? Can you stop your video and can you try to share your PPT once again? It's not showing up on the stage yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Maybe try to stop your camera and share your screen, PPT screen.
Sure. Okay. Is it visible now?
CG will check that. Yeah. Now the PPT is loading up. So I'm going to go back again, and you can stop your webcam as well. At the bottom, there should be a stop cam option on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, so should I stop the webcam? Is this better now?
Seji, if you can bring, yeah, Asa, now this is better. Yeah, I can see your slides. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So what I was talking about is that today China has been one of the preferred destinations. Was I audible clearly? So there have been certain reasons why China has been the preferred destination for IoT products, and one is obviously the cost, and it is not just the labor cost, but also what I was just sharing, the cost of allied components that are required from an IoT ecosystem standpoint. The second is the ability to do very quick manufacturing, prototyping and manufacturing. So today, if a large OEM wants to do a product testing and prototyping, then if we have to do that in China, vis-a-vis if we have to do that today in India, there is a very in China there is a very large availability of skilled labor. Based according to the labor laws, also there are some factories which operate for more than 12-14 hours a day. So from a design to a prototype, an OEM is able to get the product out in few days, whereas in other locations, say in India, it can take weeks to months. So that is another very important factor which comes into play. The third factor is the opportunity for local and global expansion. So what that means is that today the ecosystem, the entire supply chains, the demand, all of that has been established when it comes to China as a region. So whether it is supplying within the country, domestically within China market, or to other countries, that ecosystem has been established, the costs have been established, so there is ease of business. And the last is that since that market and ecosystem is evolved, there are a lot of local manufacturers there, so they compete amongst each other, and therefore there is a ability to get better service and better cost. But when it but since so China, if we see in the maturity curve, it is more mature. India is coming up, and there are certain factors. Let's just see where India fares. So we all think that China is there for low cost, but when we look at India, the cost of labor per hour is even lower. We talked of China as close to around $3 per hour for labor cost. When it comes to India, our surveys say that our labor cost per hour is close to 1.7 or around $2 per hour. So it is even lower than China. But when we look at the overall cost, the cost of product will be not just labor, but the allied ecosystem components, the supply chain cost. So we will look at that. Then India has already got evolved in the last couple of years because of manufacturing TVs, smartphones, electronic components. So we have already evolved. So I think that is also a big strength. Then the biggest strength, and that is an advantage over China, is the ease of language. In China, whenever any large OEM is operating, there is a lot of local manpower that one needs to deploy to work with the local manufacturers and the laborers and the contractors. So that can be much easier when it comes to India. And now globally and also in India, there is a lot of movement around getting other manufacturing hubs outside of China post-COVID. So these are the factors that will play in the favor of domestic Indian manufacturing ecosystem. However, there are still some things that need to work especially when it comes to IoT product manufacturing. So first is, so IoT is not just one product. Whenever an IoT device is getting manufactured, there have to be smaller components like VGA components which need to come together. So any large manufacturer which wants to tie up with an OEM, they need to showcase their ability of having these tier 2 component either tie-ups or manufacturing themselves. So that is very important. Today, there are a lot of sensor manufacturers and component manufacturers in India, but that ecosystem is not standardized. And I think that is one of the biggest gap that we face. Then because of that, whenever we need to do any kind of prototyping or quality check, it takes a very long time, because identifying a tier 1 manufacturer is easy, but bringing the entire ecosystem together and getting the right end product, that is very important, and that is where we lag, and that is where the ability to scale kind of gets compromised. The third important factor is the workforce skilling, the skilling that is required in terms of manufacturing of IoT products. Our MSME industry and industry bodies are already working. The plan has been laid out to train these tier 1 and tier 2 manufacturing capabilities and skill the workers. So I think in few years time, we should have that in place. And I think last is that the domestic market itself right now is still not that large when it comes to consumption of IoT devices. And when that also comes to play, I think demand and supply would kind of come together, and that will be the tipping point for the manufacturing to come up. And yeah, that's it from my side.
Okay. Hi, Aastha. Thank you so much. Sorry for the technical challenges, which is always bound to happen with this virtual setup. But I think I really loved the way that you compared and gave the detail around the factors that can drive Indian IoT manufacturing ecosystem or manufacturing ecosystem in general compared to China. I think it was very insightful to see and hear about the labor cost versus the other factors such as allied component manufacturing area. So this is very, very relevant. I think from our topic perspective today, while we are trying to cover more in general IoT, but I think this is very applicable to at large, right? Like, for example, Napino, we are automotive electronic component manufacturer as well. And we, I think, are trying to ensure that the ecosystem can start maturing up fast. So thank you so much, Aastha, for your time and sharing the insight. I will see you again on the panel discussion. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Anish on the stage. So Anish Sharma, he is the founder of IoTech Design, along with a few other products that Anish is working on, such as Access.ai and Webyfy. IoTech Design is, I think, one of the innovative design and manufacturing house in India. And I have worked with him, and I'm working with him actually on some of the engagements now. I know that Anish's company supports customers in US and Europe region already. So over to you, Anish, to take us through your area, which is more around building scalable products. Thank you.
Thank you. So can you see my screen? Yeah, great. So hello everyone. Today I will be talking about building scalable IoT solutions and a step-by-step walkthrough on the house. Anybody who wants to start building IoT products, what are some few things that are must in this process? So in that we will start with the agenda. First of all, my introduction. I have an engineering background. In 2020, it will be 10 years when I am working in embedded systems and IoT domain. So that is the basic background of mine. Coming to the company, IoTech Designs. IoTech Designs was started in 2016 on some freelance projects, and from there onwards, it has grown to an IoT solution providers. So we are providing end-to-end IoT solutions, and we are focused on IoT or embedded systems product only. We have customers, as Vinay rightly mentioned, we have customers in US and Europe regions, because again, as Aastha pointed out, we also sometimes feel that the ecosystem in India is not ready yet, or the reliability or robustness is not that much required in India to build scalable IoT solution. Yes, we are using imported products from the outside, but we are rarely challenging ourselves in building adaptable, reliable IoT solutions. So, so far we have built 20 plus product which are currently deployed in US and European markets, only one product in Indian market. Other than that, we are, as a company, we are also working on few solutions like Access.ai, which is a end-to-end IoT dashboard where you don't need any programming and any hardware device can be plugged and played in the cloud immediately. And other than that, Webyfy is the other as project which is related in the smart vending machine industry. So to give you an overview of presentation, so first of all, I will set the context, what all is required and what is IoT system. Then I will talk about how to design a hardware prototype, which is a proper PCB. From there, I will jump into the role of software and the other services, how you can take advantage of that. And finally, I will sum it all up so that any startup enthusiast or somebody who wants to build a product, they can understand it in basic 1 or 2 minutes. So coming to the exactly context, what we are talking here is, so when we talk about IoT, it's not only, so before I would say 2016 or 17, very few people heard about the word IoT. Majorly, even me, we were working on hardware devices, which I am, which is here. But now IoT is this combination of web and mobility. When it communicate with hardware devices, it all becomes Internet of Things, right? So today I will be talking only about hardware devices because there are a lot of companies and individuals who were already working in web and mobility, and hardware devices is the part that I want to touch upon, which also goes parallel with manufacturing as a service. So when it comes to hardware devices, there is this entire thing which goes in the background, which is the hardware design has to be, the circuit should be designed, then PCB design comes in the picture. Then once that is done, then hardware verification is the next part. Only then a PCB comes to life. The software side of it is the firmware development is there, the application development is there, and finally when all of this is done, the web and mobility is connected to it, then manufacturing and assembling is there, and finally QA and QC is done and a product is rolled out. So when we are talking of launching a hardware product or an IoT product, these are all the things that goes into the picture. So the first thing is how to design a hardware prototype. So what I will be discussing in this entire presentation is how to build a scalable product. The reason why I'm mentioning scalable product, which is while you are doing an MVP, it should not be always about, okay, fine, like the way we see while during this COVID time, we see a lot of people coming in and building some hand dispensers and other things. But I don't think any of them went ahead and made it as a product. So when we are talking about a product, then there are certain challenges we should consider from the very beginning. So first of all, I want to talk about scalable microcontroller or the processor. So if it's your hardware prototype, you should discuss whether, decide whether it is a scalable microcontroller or not. For example, Arduino is an example which I think everybody might have heard of, but it's not used in any products whatsoever which are industry standard. So you have to first understand which controller you are using. Once you understand the controller you are using, you have to understand the footprint, the pins and all those things. So how many pins you need, how many protocols you need. So all those things have to be considered before designing a hardware. Further, the other aspect comes as memory. So we don't understand whether how much memory is required or not. Initially, we have some basic idea and then we just go ahead with it. But once an MVP is complete, we understand, okay, fine, the footprint or the memory is not what we need. We need more flash or we need more RAM to do these kind of operations. And again, we are at the very beginning of the hardware design. We have to design the PCB again. We have to design each and everything again. To give you an idea, the web solution is very easy. You have to just release, you do another deployment and the application is live again. But when it comes to hardware, entire supply chain is included. You have to procure the component, get the PCB manufactured and then get it assembled, then QA QC, which makes your lead time, even after all your software and hardware designing work is done, it will be anything between 2 to 4 weeks. So we have to consider all these things upfront. Now, again, I will come back to the same idea, which is difference between your industrial and hobbyist module. So there are a lot of stuff that is going on, like Arduino, Raspberry Pi, and all these solutions, which are good to learn IoT designs and all those things. But I personally feel, and based on our experience as a company, these are more of a hobbyist module and not what an industry standard is. When you are deciding industry standard, there are certain things that you have to think. Like there could be a sensor, say IR sensor, which is available, or a demo video is available for that sensor with a demo code, but it's not available in terms of lead time when you want to scale, say 1,000 devices. Then viability is another thing which comes in the picture. So suppose you want to operate in 5 degree to 100 degrees Celsius, and do you check those ratings while you are selecting your sensor for an IoT product? So availability, lead time, and viability, these things come in the picture when we are deciding a device. Other thing is, are we thinking smart while we are doing these things? Which again, I will come back to the Arduino and all these hobby projects that are out there in the market. We are not thinking in terms of building a product, but we are thinking how we should release it as soon as possible, as it happens in mobile and web technologies. But we should understand that building an IoT product takes engineering talent and the knowledge in both hardware engineering and software engineering, which is different than any other mobile or web applications. So we should invest in engineering talent who are experienced and who can build those reliable experience. And the final thing is prototyping with development boards. So the idea is to prototype using the development boards, build the PCB parallelly, and once that is done, merge it all together, so that we are also using that time in right manner. From there, I'll go to the software point of view. So in the software, we have to again decide certain aspects, like whether we are using bare metal or RTOS. Are we using module-based design or not? Are we using libraries which can be portable from one controller to the other controller, or maybe from one manufacturer to the other manufacturer? And finally, the architecture. Is it there in the beginning? If it's not there in the beginning, it has never will be there in the product ever. So again, from there, we go to services. In services, we have library support. So for example, if somebody goes and take a service, which is a library support, which is free, but which costs you $2 per device, which is good for if you have 5 or 10 modules. But if again that modules are going in, say, in thousands, then the cost actually increases. Same goes with software languages. Further, we can jump into cybersecurity and data protection. Again, in the IoT devices, while we are building it initially, we don't think of all these encryption and all those things. But in my opinion, these things should be think beforehand before developing an IoT product. So to sum it all points, I believe we should gather the data and validate our idea at the first, because costing matters for development. Because in IoT development, it's not one thing. It actually, to validate an idea, it takes at least 1 year, at least 1 month. So in that 1 month, your costing will matter, your certifications, your analysis, all these things matter. We should not have a hobby mindset, but we should be having a product mindset if we are thinking of building a product. Then again, the scalability and viability, which was another factor, that is our product scalable? Is our product viable in the market? Are we building? So suppose if we are building a security product which has to be in 5 into 5 mm box, are we building it from the beginning, or are we realizing it once the MVP is already built? So these things should be there. So to sum this entire thing up is, first of all, it's do it, which means the hardware prototyping should go in parallel with software programming. So you are using the prototyping boards to do that thing. And the final thing is, it's about the product. So you should not think about it as a hobby, but from day one, you should think about the product and the housing of it, the security, the certifications, the summary, all these things should be in your mind from the very beginning. Otherwise, in the end, there might be a solution, but it won't be a product. So back to Vinay.
Thank you so much, Anish. I think this was like a fabulous take on a very quick one. But what I saw is, like, I think you have really hit the nail, like by telling us about some of the key areas or consideration that we should keep in mind when designing IoT hardware. And I'm really looking forward to do one very deep dive session by you in the future with our audience and my company to talk about in detail how we design a product. I think you hit two very important points: is the difference between selecting modules and components for a prototype versus for a production grade software or a hardware, something that need to be produced at mass scale. There are many factors we need to keep in mind, from viability to cost to design to sourcing and other things. So I think between Naveen sir on the keynote and till you right now, we have covered 3 or 4 important aspects between you, Aastha, and Akash around designing a product, comparing ours compared to China as a manufacturing hub, and then keeping in mind some of this key driver for designing and building hardware products. Next, I would like to call on the stage Mr. Vijay Kumar. Mr. Vijay is the founder of an MD and CEO of a company called as Webyfy IoT. He has 3 decades of experience across multiple countries and multiple companies such as GE. He brings a lot of experience onto the table from international exposure and within India. As I like to share, Webyfy IoT is one of the startup based in on the area of hardware and software development, using R&D as one of the core driving factor around it. And today he's going to cover and talk about modularization of design to facilitate IoT product creation. So over to you, Mr. Vijay. You can share your screen now. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, hi everyone. And first of all, let me thank you for the opportunity for interacting with you people and sharing a little bit of knowledge and experience that I have in this field. I just have only one screen, one slide. Yeah, I just have only a few things to talk about. When we, whatever little experience that I have in this field, when you're talking about the design, it's, especially on the electronic side, the fundamental thing is that there is a huge shift in focus on how the hardware has been designed a little while back and what the hardware is designed right now. See, when you talk about, for example, you talk about a washing machine, their entire intelligence of running the washing machine is built into the washing machine. Whereas if you're talking about an IoT device, or at least the real IoT device we talk about, the intelligence is actually pulled out of the hardware and it is stored elsewhere. It's put in probably in your mobile phone, or it is provided in your PC or in some other computing device or the cloud or somewhere else. It is not inside the hardware. The hardware is actually designed to carry out a specific function, and it is supposed to execute a certain function. So that's one part of it. And the second one is that, now the hardwares are designed in such a way that you can actually, there is hardly any difference between a hardware and a software, in the sense that you can actually call a hardware as a function inside your software. So you can definitely say that it's probably for a perspective of, the operational point of view, operationalizing the point of view through a software. The hardware actually acts like a piece of code. So since there is not much of a time, I don't want to get into it. It's very easy to read a few articles on this. And the next process which I'm talking about is granularity of design. I was talking to a few people across the world on this particular concept. This is a very important concept, because the world, the fundamental thing that we need to understand is that the world is becoming more and more diverse every day, and every individual has got his own requirement to be satisfied, and you cannot have a million products to be created. So what really needs to do is, you look around in the world, you can see that if you look at any process or any complex system, it is actually made of a few simple things. If you start dividing that system into smaller and smaller things, and if you, for a simple thing is that you take a water, you get divided into smaller things, then finally you come to hydrogen and oxygen atoms, and it is combined in a specific manner to form the water molecule. So the same way, when you're talking about a product to be designed, you need to start looking at a granularity of design. That is, you cut down the product into smaller and smaller components, so that you come to a specific module which cannot be divided again, and then that you can combine the thing so that you can create a final product. The reason why you want to do it is because first is that if you look at the quality of your granular module, and if you're able to ascertain the granular module, and then you can probably certain places times you can actually check it out, then the overall quality must also be good, provided the process quality only to be validated at the end. This is again another topic which requires a long discussion. The third point which I want to put in front of you people, especially the people who are going to do about the design aspect of it, and especially when you want to go for manufacturing products and things like that, it is very important for you to do modularization of your operational modules. So for example, you're taking a signal from a sensor, and then you're going to transfer it to a processing unit. But in between those two places, you have your data collation units. You have, or before that, you have your terminal box, this thing. And you have data collation units, and then you have data transmission, and then you finally get to the processing side. So in between what you have an optical isolation device. So if you are going to put everything together into one PCB, then your process of managing becomes more difficult. Your reliability goes down very badly, because if any one of the modules go down, everything goes down. So instead of that, suppose if I make a terminal block as one module, then you have a connected terminal block to an optical isolation device or a TVS protection device in between that, and then you take the whole thing to a microcontroller based data collation device, and from the data collation device you have another module which actually does the transmission. So depending on the transmission, you can use either a wireless transmission or a wired transmission on multiple protocols. If you're talking about a wireless, means you can go for a Wi-Fi or a sub-gigahertz or a LoRa or a GPRS or a GSM or whatever. And then you take the thing to the final processing unit. So it is very important, if you want to create a very reliable system, is to divide the stuff into as modular as possible. And possibly you can combine all those modules together in your final product. I mean, that depends on your marketing strategy. You can combine the whole thing. But when you're going to start designing, you should do it in this thing. And this is very important also when you're going for the manufacturing perspective. We are talking about cutting the manufacturing into two parts. One is prototyping and the other is production. If you really look at it, the prototyping is going to cost a lot of money. So we are going to do everything together and put it into a single PCB and send it across for testing. Possibly your failure rates are going to be very high. So cut it down to modules, create the modules, then integrate the modules, and then finally, if it is required, then assemble the modules together and finally do the production. This will give you a very reliable product. The second one, as my esteemed co-speaker, the previous that gentleman talked about, was the component sourcing. The component sourcing, many times what happens is that it is because of your availability of resources in terms of money or understanding of a component or a familiarity with the component. You decide that you take probably a microcontroller which has got a very limited I/O, but then suddenly after doing all the prototyping and nearing to the production, you finally understand that the market requires a few more facilities in the system. And then suddenly you can't change it. So it is always better to choose a microcontroller or a component which has got at least 1.5 to 2 times the capability of what you really require, because you will definitely, over a period of time, you will definitely need to add a lot more stuff into it. And then the third one is, I'm talking about the module assembly. The module assembly, the reason I put that thing in this particular slide is because in India, the module assembly is very difficult to get. For example, you're talking about a 0.35 BGA size, or if you're talking about a 0.4 BGA size, it is practically impossible to locate the person who is actually doing it. So then for you to start developing stuff, it is going to be difficult. So you should also start looking at and identifying the people who can actually assemble the module for you, when during the process of design. And the last and the most important thing is the enclosure, because whatever you design, whatever that you want to put into the market, until and unless it looks good, nobody's going to touch it. Especially if you're going in for consumer products, or so you need to have a good looking enclosure. But in India, I don't know how many people are there, or what are the facilities for us to actually create a good quality or at least a good-looking enclosure. So the 4 points which I put here, that is prototyping, production, post-production PCB manufacturing, component sourcing, module assembly, and enclosure sourcing. These are the 4 pain points which are faced by a designer. To start off with the beginning with the esteemed speaker from Dell, she talked about China being a much better place, and of course because I used to get my PCBs manufactured from China at a cost of probably about $5 to $10, and the same thing in India cost me around 4,000 rupees. It's almost 5 times, 5 to 10 times more expensive in India to manufacture it. And definitely the quality is also a critical factor. So it is very important for companies like Napino to seriously look at these conditions. And probably these are the difficulties that are faced by the designers. And in India, definitely there is a huge amount of brain power and design power that is available here. But then it has to be facilitated by companies like Napino to create a prototyping facility at a reasonable cost, because anybody who starts a company, every rupee is very difficult to come by. So at a very reasonable cost, if people can help it out, then I think we are going to be something really good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vijay. I think this was a very, very good sum up of the speaker topics. I think you have really tried to bring together the discussions that have been shared by all the 4 speakers and hit a very important point around how to design modular components and what are the different factors that you look at. I think from an Indian IoT ecosystem perspective, this is very important to note. Like, where do we really focus? How much do we invest? What support we need from government policies and other areas. So thank you so much. Now we will move on to our next and the last topic for today, which is a panel discussion. But before we start that, we do have a lot of questions coming from our audience today. We have quite a big turnaround, around 130 people. So I may not be able to go through all the questions, but I have collated some questions and I'm going to throw to them. We will try to take questions for Mr. Naveen Kumar, our keynote speaker for today. So Seji, if you can please bring sir on the screen. Hi, sir. So I think there are quite a few questions for you, sir, like around 5, but I'm going to summarize. One, which is very interesting from Mr. Devidatta Gowda, is like, how do you plan to set up the plants for varying products in the changing environment? I think he's trying to hint at that IoT or even digital technologies are evolving very fast. So how can a company like Napino set up capabilities that can support this changing requirements from the market?
Yeah, I mean, thanks. It's a very good question, in fact. And let me tell you one thing. For most of the IoT thing, the basic manufacturing and the basic concept remains the same. Maybe there are different type of application, but you see everything has to have a PCBA. Everything will have to have some type of a testing, some type of validation. And then it has to be really tuned up, slightly for the different application and for the different product. But by and large, whatever product we have been handling, as I told you in my initial keynote, that we are handling products from ranging from a modular camera to a tracking device, and various other applications, smartphones and all, smart watches and all. So what we saw that the manufacturing change doesn't change a lot. Yeah, I mean, maybe we have to make some small changes, and some small addition has to be done, but that I think it is not going to be a remarkably or a totally different setup is required for different type of products. This is what is our understanding, but maybe depending upon your product, if you have any specific question about your particular product, maybe you can post it to us, and then we'll work on it, and we'll let you know. But at the same time, I'll take one more minute of Vinay. Basically, I have heard many things about the support required by the startup. One of the areas which I would like to stress upon is that we have the experience of handling many products which has come from the startup, and when it comes for the manufacturing, then we see that there are some very, very basic flaws in the design. And because of which the manufacturing becomes a problem, and even if we are able to do the manufacturing, the product reliability will not be ensured. So what I would also suggest that many of the people, Napino as a company who is expertise in manufacturing can also be a part of DFME at a certain point of time. Because at that time we can tell you, what is good for manufacturing. When you are designing a great product, but whether will it be able to go into manufacturing? And we have seen some of the best technology product, in terms of, in connectivity products and even battery management systems, different type of application. When it comes for us for manufacturing, then we are finding a lot of issues, which I think if we as a manufacturing expert are consulted at a certain stage, and what definitely with certain type of NDA and all into place, I think the timeline for going into market will become very good, and the chances of failure will reduce drastically. That's what I wanted to add over here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, sir. There is one more question from Mr. Saurav Kumar, and a couple of other people have asked similar question. And you may choose to not answer, but I think the question is like, what does it cost to invest into setting up plants to manufacture the devices in the connected domain? And the another question which is in line is also, how do we handle price fluctuations of electronic components, which sometimes are linked to international markets? Because especially when we work on the BOM and we source components, is there any inputs or suggestions, sir, from your side for the?
Just to answer the first question, the good news is that Napino is already invested, to support for all the IoT products. So, we understand that, for IoT, the majority of the investment goes into the electronic manufacturing line. So we as a company has taken a policy that we'll always have a 30 to 40% capacity, idle for the new people to come, because when you come with maybe a 1,000 product or 2,000 product, it's not possible for anybody to start the investment at that time. So we always need to have a capacity, maybe 20-30%, so that we are able to take this type of order. And that is very important, because if you don't have, even the lead time and the investment of putting up an electronic manufacturing line is very high. So that is, as a manufacturing policy, we always do that. And that helps for the people who has got small quantity to be manufactured. So that is not a major concern as far as Napino is concerned. So we are aware of this type of challenges, and we are ready to face these challenges. Yeah, and now coming back to the fluctuation of electronic, because most of them are imported from, the major currency what we work on is dollar, and we currently Napino imports electronic component worth more than 350 crores per annum. So we are one of the largest importer of electronic component. And of course, the dollar and the forex fluctuation is not in anybody's hand. But what we follow, when you go to a very big OEMs where the order is very repetitive, like when we go for the automotive industry, when we work with the automotive customer, so here we have a very scientific, a very transparent system of compensating the foreign fluctuation on a quarterly basis. So it's a very standard practice in the automotive field, and I'm sure it is not there in the IoT domain right now. But yeah, maybe when we work with large OEMs like one of the speaker from and from some big people, I think this arrangement really helps us a lot. Only thing is that in this you have to be very transparent with your customer. If you want to hide a lot of things from the customer, then you won't be able to get this this type of compensation on a quarterly or a 6-yearly basis. But in automotive, it's a very well proven method of pricing with the customer. Yeah, but if it is not there, then there are different ways of doing it. Maybe we have to build in some type of buffer in our pricing, or then we have to go for some type of hedging. So that is where we are right now. Thank you. Hope I have been able to answer your question. But these are very interesting topic, and I would welcome everybody to have a one-to-one call whenever you need, and I will be able to speak a lot on this subject.
Great. Thank you so much, sir. And I think you have already sent an invite to everyone to visit our facility. So I hope many people on the call would show up.
You come and see how actually we are doing and what care we take. Manufacturing, we say that is also a type of art, and the way we take care of each and every component. It's really good to see.
Great. Thank you so much, sir. So now we will move on to our panel discussion. So I will request the production green room to bring up all the panelists on the video. And before we go there, some instructions. People who are on the call, please remember that we do have a quiz today. There are winners for the quiz. The top 3 winners will be given some exciting rewards. So remember that you have to follow the LinkedIn group of Napino and then you have to participate in the quiz. The quiz is going to be very simple, multiple choice questions. Even the speakers can take participation, but you won't be eligible for the reward, as some of the questions have come from you. But we will ensure that you stay till the end with us. Have a very exciting multiple choice question and give us the feedback. So please stay till the end. I do have a lot of questions coming up, as I think we have quite a big number of audience today. So again, my apologies if I am not able to take your questions for the panel. But before we take the questions from the audience, there are a few interesting discussions that we should do between the four experts here on the screen. So once again, very nice to see all of you together. I love that Aastha is in the center of the universe of this video, one of the very important contributor. So our first question goes to Aastha. And Aastha, I think this is very important for all of us to hear from you, is that you have been working in corporates and enterprises for a very long time, and OEMs. So, and I think you already covered this somewhere, but I think it's very, very important that what are the key considerations that a large OEM have typically when they are scaling or looking to work with partners to build IoT products at a larger scale? In India specifically, if you can throw some light on that.
See, cost, thanks Vinay. So cost is definitely important, but that is, as I mentioned, it is not just the core product. It is the end-to-end cost which will be important. So the overall components, and how where that product is going to get shipped out. So the end-to-end, the total cost of ownership, basically. So that is more of a commercial discussion. But I think two bigger factors are more important when it comes to IoT products. So first is how fast can somebody help an OEM in prototyping the product. So how can we bring all the capabilities together and create the first prototype? How fast that can be done? And second is the ability to scale. I think these two are the most important criteria that are important. Right now, when it comes to India, we don't see very large volumes in terms of our consumption also of IoT products. So when we are looking at setting up any manufacturing in India, then it will then we have to take into consideration that it will be for not just for Indian market, but for other global markets also. So how the entire supply chain is fulfilled and how fast and can somebody scale up, I think these two will be very important.
Excellent. Any other panelists who would like to throw their points on the same topic? Akash, Vijay sir, Anish, if you have, we can go take your views as well.
I think she's covered almost everything.
Yes, she did.
Okay, excellent. So another question that I have for Anish here is, like, Anish, I think you're one of the upcoming startups in the area of IoT design and production capability. And I understand you're doing a fabulous job, and the topics that you covered today with some key drivers that you mentioned. I have one question for you, like, maybe I will ask it from on behalf of like a large manufacturer like Napino, but also from the industry's point of view, that one challenge that India might face for some time is that the number of quantity will be lower, right? Like because the type of order size that can come in from IoT startup ecosystem will be in the range of 200 devices at a time to maybe, let's say, 1,000 devices. Of course, as Naveen sir covered, that in addition to the mass scale production, we might also set up, and most of the manufacturing provider will set up capability to support lower minimum order quantity. So what's your take on that? Like to scale, is there a way that this can be done to support both the objective of the large company and also still support the startup ecosystem to achieve their targets? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for this question. So basically, there are two aspects we are talking here. One is prototyping and other is mass production. So the mass productions order that we have done in past with manufacturing companies or assembling companies like Napino in India. So I can say that finally we have found some partners and vendors like Napino, where quality is at par with a company in US or China. That is not an issue at all. The lead time and all those things are solved in mass production or in the scale aspect. But when it comes to prototyping, I like players like Napino who are already doing good in mass production. There are two pain points that are there. So first is prototyping. So for companies like us, if you can provide something where I want to say prototype 5 or 10 PCBs, which will be say in future will be mass produced, maybe pricing is not that bigger an issue, but the lead time for that entire thing. So how fast you can give me prototype of 5 PCBs with assembly. So that is one challenge which we face, which is not there in scale. So in scale, like I have seen companies do this mass production in 1 or 2 days for 1,000 to 10,000 PCBs. But in prototyping phase, can you help us there? Again, the pricing is not an issue, but the timing is. Second thing, which somebody talked about, the forex prices and all those things. So when we build an ecosystem and create a BOM, we look at DigiKey or some other component sourcing websites and create a BOM. But again, if we are talking about Napino, say example, for a sourcing partner for us, so there should be some, like not even private for a vendor, but for everybody, some sort of price point which could be changed by plus minus 5 to 10%, but something to refer to while we are designing our BOM if we are going to mass produce with Napino or the similar partner. So I am talking about creating that ecosystem for companies like or design houses like us, where you provide these things in, say example, in prototyping and the BOM point. So then it will be very easy for us to mass produce and predict the cost. So that's it from my side.
Okay, great. I think so lead time you said is important, quality is important, and also providing the support during prototyping, which also Vijay sir I think touched upon briefly. That how do you support me in multiple stages? And I think even Naveen sir mentioned a point, which I think many other large players also are doing, is setting up center of excellence and center of manufacturing kind of an ecosystem. Like I know Hacks, which is one of the largest hardware accelerator in the world based out of China, has a presence in India now, and they do provide kind of an ecosystem. And I'm very hopeful that companies like Napino and other players will also do the same. So my next question is to Akash here. Akash, I think in your experience, why doesn't a hardware startup will fail or succeed? Any experience you can share with the audience?
Sure.
Just to let you know, Akash, we have 180 people on the call, so a lot of people are not hearing you at this stage.
So you want me to be right? Yeah. Okay. I think the fail or succeed. Let me give you an example. So there are two parts to a hardware startup. In fact, three. So one is when you are doing the POC and research, right? And then you are doing the manufacturing, and third, when you are in the market. So when you're doing the POC and research, like when we experience doing it, there is a lot of challenge in acquiring the stuff that you want. So if you want a specific actuator or a pump with a specific limits, it's very hard to procure. I mean, if you go, before COVID, there were websites where you are able to find it from China and acquire it, but the lead time is too long and things like that. But, those were the challenges where startup have to then focus on using something which is available to them. And then what they envision they want to build and what they're building is not the true reality. So that's, I think, the one part of it. The second comes in the middle, which is the actual manufacturing. So once you're done with your POC and R&D, and now you're manufacturing it, which I think a lot of speakers here has covered. The supply chain issue, which is a big one. Like one product that we were building, we ordered some chips from TI, and then though they said we placed an order and everything, but then they launch an upgraded version of the chip. And now the question becomes, shall we go for the upgraded version? Shall we stick to the one that we were using during our POC? So supply chain, of course, has the major impact on your success or failure. And I think, but a lot of big IoT divisions the manufacturers like Napino and others, they are able to solve that with their inbuilt supply chain. Now, the third part, which is when you are in the market, and now you're talking about what will fail. So I'll give you an example. So we work with one of the big, largest, largest sports goods manufacturer in America, and we produced a connected football, so American football. So the way it worked was, so that when the player is actually throwing the football, it has the algorithm and the sensors in it to measure how was the sports person performance. And this is not a small company I'm talking about. So we hired people from MIT and other places, did a research on how to put the algorithm together in a way that gives the right result. And it was a long process. 1 year later, huge marketing budget spent, huge money spent on developing the product, went to the market, started selling it. 2020, the product was pulled out from the market. It's not selling enough. So what happened, right? You have a big sporting goods manufacturer, big name, big product, good vision, things like that. So why is it not working out? So I don't think people have an answer, but the reality is that there is not enough adoption for the product. People don't want it. So again, I go back to my point of saying that the timing of when you launch things, when people want it, is very, very critical in the success or failure of any platform. So it's like, Apple did the tablet very early on in, I think 97, 98 Newton. And then they did the iPad in 2009 when they launched it. In fact, they started building iPad before even iPhone was into design. So iPad was their, the starting point. So, but iPad became successful with a lot of changes to it. They moved the keyboard out. They understood the market. There was enough, acceptance of touch screen by that time when they launched it after iPhone. So that resulted in the success of the platform. So I would say that it's a lot of how your market plays out when you go out in the market, how much demand, that will what determine the success and failure.
Great. I think that's a very excellent example, very interesting one around the connected football. And I also know about a few other products which looks very innovative, but then they don't succeed in the market. And I think all of you have touched upon certain areas that while designing IoT hardware or IoT product, a prototyping plays a very important role, number one. But then product market fit, that how do you bring to the market? How do you really understand whether it's going to succeed when you scale up the production and before you try to even scale it up? I have some questions coming on the question panel because I think now there are quite a few, more than 180 people, and I'm trying to ensure that I'm trying to address all your questions. But there is one question for Naveen sir, and also our panelists can answer after Naveen sir as well. Is that when we talk about wearables, and as I understand, Napino have designed one of the smartwatch called a So Watch. There are concerns like a good finished mechanical fixtures and enclosures, which is a challenge for designing a wearable on the hand. So how does Napino plan to address such kind of issues? Like when more than the electronics, the enclosure also plays a critical part in the design of the component or the product.
Yeah, again, this is a very important point because at the end of the day, I think Mr. Vijay also said that the product should look good. And that is one area where in India we are lacking. But definitely, here we have to have some partner company because here for the enclosure to be very good, the initial things start from the basic tool design. So I think that is the area where I think we have to really focus a lot, and that is definitely one area where Napino is also seriously looking for some solution. Like we are already in a process of building up just to give a good look, and also we are also going to have a proper studio at Napino, wherein you can come and see the sketches, and you can also do some type of a simulation, and in terms of how the product will look like. And then definitely we are also investing very heavily on a lot of tools like mold flow analysis and all those things that will give us some idea about how the tool has to be made. But yeah, the tool is again a very, very hard thing to be done, and definitely for that we are looking for some partners because the plastic part comes the way the tool has been designed. So yeah, definitely in India we have a lot of challenges in very small part molding, but yeah, definitely we have also understood this gap, and we are working towards it.
Great, thank you. I have another question for Mr. Vijay on the line. This is like, what are some of the best practice, because you have a much wider and deeper experience in the industry, sir, and international and both domestic. Any one or two best practices you have seen outside which India can adopt while focusing on products like this?
Yeah, thank you. The first and the foremost is that we should realize we talk about SWOT analysis and all that, but we really do that? I don't know. So first and the foremost thing is that we should realize, like Mr. Naveen has discussed about, is about tooling. Somebody was talking about tooling engineers. If you look at a set of tooling engineers that you require in India, probably you will get the whole of India you search, you may probably get about 50 of them or probably 100 of them. But if you go to China, I think you can fill a couple of stadiums with that. So it's very important that the government also start looking at creating those kind of skill sets in the country. So that is the number one, because if you want to put up good product to the market, you need to have good tooling. And if you don't have good tooling, your tooling is going to be bad. Because I was I was one of the corporate leaders in GE when industrial systems were there. And industrial system had more than 400,000 products. And every day, I think we come out with new products. And when we started manufacturing the products in India, the tooling was a very, very, very serious issue. So that's one thing which, if Napino can do something about it, it'll be very good. The second one is, if you really look at the costing aspect of, being an old GE guy, I relate everything to cost. So before we really look at the cost, if you're going to talk about product design, my request is, I mean, it's my real humble request, because I've seen too many failures in life. So many people starting up with a lot of enthusiasm and going sky high. It is whatever that aspects that you talked about, the market and the demand and resources and everything is wonderful, great. But fundamentally, have you really given a thought into the design? You should step back, forget about prototyping, forget about everything, take a few steps back, and then start looking at the design. Am I designing the system in a proper way? I mean, am I doing the design in a scalable manner? Am I designing the system in such a way that there is a built-in, repair or a self-healing facility inside it? Am I designing the system in such a way that the system tells you what is wrong with it? Am I designing the system in such a way that I can add more functionalities and, the facilities into it? Am I designing the system in such a way that I can have an interaction with the system very easily? Am I designing a system in such a way that I can actually play with the intelligence? I think this is one concept that every designer should understand, because the intelligence part of it. So this is something which is more understood by the people in the West. If you start looking at it, especially when they came out of the concept of IoT, what they have designed systems in such a way that they pulled out the intelligence out of the hardware and pushed it into the, the virtual space or whatever space it is. So, simple example, what I talked about, that washing machine. You pull out the intelligence out of the washing machine and keep it in a mobile phone. Today, you operate the washing machine in some 5 or 10 modes which the company gives you. But if I have the intelligence into my mobile phone, I can create any wash cycle I want. I can create the way I want the machine to be washing my clothes. The number of the speed of the motor, the number of forward and reverse movements, and blah 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 blah. So this is the kind of changes that are really, we talk about Internet of Things. Internet of Things are not connected devices. Internet of Things are not connected devices because the world has been connected probably from the late 70s or 60s. Early 70s or 60s. So we are already in the Internet of Things for the last 50 years. But what is the difference? The difference is this. So this concept has to go into creating a product. Creating a product is not putting some intelligence into a microcontroller. Microcontroller is only a tool to get something what is happening at the end. So This is what request I have with all the people who are listening to me. Take a step backward, look at what you want to do. Ask a lot of questions, and then you get the answers and start doing things. Thank you. And anybody wants to interact with me personally on this, please do.
Excellent, sir. Those are like really great and fantastic point around designing it well before thinking of implementation, and also making the edge smarter and intelligent. I think this is an area of personal interest to me as well. I keep reading about different research areas on the edge analytics and edge intelligence, and a lot of devices which are coming in the market are providing the solution where you mentioned about, can the device talk to me? Can the device self-heal? Can I do OTA? Can I do updates and other things? And I think that is very important. In fact, some experience we saw at Napino also is that when younger companies design the hardware, they don't leave room for enough testing fixtures or points. So when you design a PCB, if your PCB is so compact and integrated that it does not give you point where you can do voltage testing, how do I do automated testing using a jig fixtures, right? And we have given recommendation back to our customers and back to our designers that it is very important that you are not just looking at functional aspect, but also performance and testing aspects, which can be done automated on the line while the PCB is being manufactured for the enclosure, right? So that's very important. Yeah. Thanks so much. I think I'll take one.
Vinay, one more point which I would like to say, which is very important, because as I told, with 30 years behind me, I have seen a lot more failures among the systems than successes, because successes are very easy to come by when provided you have a large failures to back up from which you learn. If you have failures and you don't learn from it, that's a different thing. So my request to all of you who are planning to get into design a product and things like that is to cut down the product into as many modules as possible and design individual modules, and then test out the individual modules, and then later you put the modules together. Probably don't make a small micro, people get excited, they get a high talking about, I made a board which is only 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, doing everything under the sun. It doesn't make any sense. You make a board which is 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters, put all the stuff into it, or probably put only one thing into it, test it out, and then you design multiple modules, and then later you bring the modules together. Then you have a far, far greater possibility of success rather than creating a fantastic thing on the first go, which is definitely bound to fail. Because this is my experience of designing thousands of and interacting with hundreds of product designers, because unfortunately I was a corporate manager, so I don't really I haven't done anything with my own two hands unless recently. But interacting with hundreds of designers across the world, I definitely feel that this is the way to go about, especially in India, where you do not have money, you do not have infrastructure. I mean, your list of what you do not have is very long. I think we should understand that and then start creating things over it and then become successful. Thank you.
Exactly. I completely agree.
So our target will be to reduce the number of things in the list that we can't do in India. I think we are committed for
that. That's great. Thank you.
I think now we have reached 11:40 and we are about to, I think we are running on time, so we have quiz and feedback pending, but I would just take one final question which I want to ask all the panelists. And this is my personal question, which I keep thinking in my own head for a long time while I work here at Napino, is that when you go to ecosystem or IoT manufacturing service provider in countries like China or let's say other, cost is one important factor. We discussed that during our session today. And when I'm talking to some customers now, I also talk about that lead time, of course, we can match, quality we can match, but are you ready to pay a small delta higher than what you're probably paying today to bring the manufacturing into the country, which helps you in multiple ways in terms of managing your forex issues, managing your lead time, having a local point of contact and things like that. Some customers, which one of them I'm working with has said, yeah, I'm okay if there is a smaller delta. But what's the take from the audience and from the speakers here is that, like especially Aastha, like if Dell is getting something manufactured in China and if you have to pay, let's say 30 cents more on per device, but matching on other, mostly other aspects, will Dell be open for that? And same to Anish, Vijay sir and Akash. Will that be a consideration in your head? Aastha, you can start and then we can move on to the other. You're on mute, Aastha. Yeah.
So, so one is the delta in cost is important because cost is obviously an important factor. So you mentioned 30 cents. So, I mean, the exact delta in cost is important. Having said that, like if I talk of Dell or even earlier in my earlier experience from Samsung, China is not the only place where all the manufacturing is happening. Like we are doing it across the world. So costs are not similar in different locations as well. So cost is one of the important factor. The delta of cost is important. But as I mentioned, the other factors are much more important in terms of ability to scale. How much can we, witness the prototyping phase in front of us? So that is also a very important criteria. And what I feel is very important, especially when it comes to IoT products, that when the Indian market also becomes larger in terms of consumption of these IoT products, there will be a natural push to get the manufacturing also done in India. So I think we are a little, we are reaching there. Like if you see, if you might have read recently, like some months back in May or June, Xiaomi made this announcement that they are going to manufacture IoT vacuum cleaners in India. And I think COVID was one of the push where they felt that Indian market would start to order. So domestic demand is also very important, because once that comes into play, then my overall supply chain cost will be marginalized. And then the higher cost of manufacturing will not remain that important. So I think I hope that answers.
Yeah, no, very well. I think so you're talking about overall this thing. I think there is some comment from someone. Akash, yeah.
Yeah, Vinay. So the answer is very simple in my head. So my heart is there to do it, in India, but does my balance sheet points how to do it? So when you put every factor combined and same, now the question becomes the impact of, let's say, 30 cent to a cost on a cup of tea versus 30 cent on a difference of building an iPhone, right? So there's a big difference. So you have to look at it from all of us, who are doing startups or engineering products, they're all meant for profit at the end of the day and making sustainable organization. So keeping everything, intact, if you are able to produce the same value and you are able to marginalize based on, the logistics involved in bringing things from the other places, and your target audience is here. And if you can put together the plan right, of course, the manufacturing can be done here.
Okay. Akash, thank you. So I think, Anish, you have a point? Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, again, I would say, because we as a company, we have done, like in past few months, we have done few mass productions in India, PCBA and manufacturing and QA/QC. So I personally, in my opinion, considering customs and then lead time is there, then the package is stuck in customs and all those things. I have personal, and then we export it to US. So it's not a single thing. So what I have seen is costing is not that much variable in, say, if I'm producing 1,000 to 1,000 PCBs. So that is already working pretty good in India. What is more concern point for me is number one is, so component sourcing is not happening in India. So again, I have to go to China. So then I think, okay, fine, if I am sourcing component from China, why cannot I get it manufactured there also? So that's why I mentioned the earlier point, if Napino can do something where I can see those components right there at Napino, including the custom cost and all those other costs that are right there, right? So that is one. And second thing is, again, which when it comes to manufacturing in India is where, again, I figured some Bangalore-based company component sourcing as well. Okay, fine, I don't want to get into that hassle, and they will source the components for me. But when it comes to the government of India and the kind of rules and regulations that they put in place, I think all of you know that in June, between 20th of June to 5th of July, there was no custom clearance happening, and more than like 7-8 lakh rupees of worth of goods were stuck in the customs of our own company itself. So these things are some things which, again, the big players like Napino can talk with government or some, like building that ecosystem is more required. Coming back to the costing, I personally, from my point of view, I don't see costing on that bigger challenge or that bigger difference. Same goes with quality. I have seen companies like Napino do a better or a equal quality on the products. So the challenge would be that ecosystem. That are you helping us in the ecosystem, and you don't have to do all those things on your own. You can find partners who can assure us that, okay, fine. Like for example, I ordered a component on 11th of August, supposed to deliver on 11th of September, was delivered to me last week. So my entire production of that entire thing went down to different levels, and the delivery date went ahead. But now I'm not going to rely on that component provider in the future.
Yeah, got it. Point. Okay.
So
I think you have hit a very important point, Anish. Like sourcing as a service is what you're looking for, right? From a reliable companies or the scale of Napino. And I think that's a good idea. We'll take that into point and probably very soon launch something like this. Because so far we were thinking of designing and manufacturing, but maybe there is an area where we can support sourcing to players like you at our scale.
Just want to add
sorry,
because manufacturing and assembly, a lot of players are already doing in India, including you, which quality is at par, right? QA, QC is also there. Designing the companies like us who have like more than 10, 15 engineers working on the design side, they are also doing it pretty well, considering all those points. But when it comes to sourcing, I don't think any reliable partner is doing it in India. On that scale. So that is something which we are looking at, then it will be a better ecosystem for the entire community.
Absolutely. No, completely agree. I think very soon you should hear something from me. We will discuss this at Napino. I think that's a bigger pain point. I heard even Akash talk about sourcing components and reliable components faster, both at the smaller scale and at the larger scale. So I think with that, we are kind of done with our session today. Thanks to all of you for your time. What I will request everyone now on the call is we are going to start our quiz in the next 30 seconds. But first, I would like to thank Mr. Naveen Kumar from Napino, Mr. Vijay Kumar, Mr. Akash Takyar, Mr. Anish Sharma, and not but Miss Aastha Gupta, I think, for sharing really important insights overall here today. And we might come up with more sessions. So please remember to follow us on LinkedIn, number one. Remember to sign up for our future events. We are going to launch one event on November 7th, which is the second Saturday of next month, which will be on one of the topic around designing IoT hardware and what it takes to design a good hardware in a more deep dive fashion. I think we touched briefly on that today, but we'll go deeper on that later on. So I will request Seiji from the production team to let us know that can people now click on the quiz window and start the quiz now. Seiji, if you can guide us, please, on that. Yes, okay. So I think just to let you know, the quiz is the timed quiz. So Seiji, you can give me a timer window and let me know when exactly the quiz starts, because it's a 5-minute timed window quiz, right, Seiji? But you can finish it faster or earlier. I think the more faster you give and more correct response you give, it will rate you accordingly. So quiz has started. You can click on the link and go there. Let me also try myself. So just to remind everyone who are taking the quiz, it's a multiple choice quiz, very simple. I think more like a multiple choice question to help understand whether you were able to follow some of the topics that we have discussed and understand the background of the speakers today and follow them. After the quiz is done, you will once you hit the submit button on the quiz, remember to please hit the feedback button. Okay. The feedback button will take you to a small feedback page with only 4 questions. I sincerely request everyone to please post your feedback for the event. Help us do it better the next time. I'm once again sorry that I was not able to take up all the questions in the interest of time, but I'm going to collate these and post this to our speakers And probably when we send you the thank you note and the thank you email, we will ensure that these questions are answered by our speakers for all of you. Hi, Anshul. I would now invite you on the stage. I think the quiz should be done by now in the next few minutes, maybe a couple of minutes, to give a thank you note for today. I would like to once again thank you, our community partner, LIFE, Leaders and Innovators Forum, and our community partner, IoT NCR. Both of them have been a fabulous partner in supporting, helping us design and also market our event today. Because of which we see a huge turnaround for the event. So Anshul will be coming back on here. Hi Anshul, you're on mute.
Hi,
okay.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. So Anshul, I think the quiz is still going on. There is 50 seconds left. So after that, maybe you can share a thank you note. And any other feedback or any other pointers you need to share with the audience right now, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Vinay. Thank you so much. I think it's fair to conclude that this webinar is going like fabulous, and many of the people have contributed in many ways, like going on to the smooth running of the event, and a lot of interesting presentations by all our speakers and our CEO. And we had held this in a very good atmosphere, and we are engaging a lot of networking here. So I sincerely owe gratitude towards our CEO, Mr. Naveen Kumar, for initiating this kind of a webinar series where we have a motive to collaborate and become partner, like find solutions and grow into this IoT industry within India. A few pointers which I would like to mention, which our CEO has mentioned in his keynote, which are very important for all of us, is like announcing of the new facility, new IoT facility, wherein we shall be designing and manufacturing new products, and we shall be doing a lot of collaboration with our startups and our speakers as well. Plus, he has talked about and he has supported our Modi ji's initiative, that's the Make in India initiative. And he's asking every one of us to become an Atmanirbhar, right? And then finally, he has invited all of us to experience the art of designing and manufacturing the process of the hardware and IoT products. Then I would really thank upon the two communities which have collaborated with us. That is the Leaders and Innovators Forum, plus IoT and NCR community, which is the third largest community in the world, which has helped us in making the event a successful event. Further, then I would like to extend my gratitude towards you, Mr. Vinay, and plus all our panelists, Mr. Vijay from Webyfy, Ms. Aastha from Dell, Mr. Akash from Leewayhertz, and finally Mr. Anish from IoTech Design, to take out time and enlighten all of us on this topic, IoT manufacturing as a service. So I will just quickly wrap up in few pointers, wherein Akash has talked about, he has given his recommendation on what IoT platforms to be preferred in future, which could be the best one, and how we can manage our funds in using those platforms, right? Like which can save our money, and which is more useful, and which has like great scope of work for us, right? Then Ms. Aastha has clearly mentioned about like manufacturing destination for IoT devices within Asia, where she has mentioned about a lot of strengths what India has, like low cost labor, linguistic things, and already India is into progress to manufacture a lot of smartphones, smart TVs, and auto components. Then I think Mr. Vijay and Anish has clearly talked about the pain points of the demand and supply of the smart products in India, and how we can route them and bring the IT products into the market, and lead into this technology-driven environment. And yes, last but not the least, our event team, which has actually they have put in their hardship to create this platform, and for all of us and all our speakers and our audience, they can attend this webinar seamlessly, and their hardship is is always there. I would like to really thank them, the event team, who has helped us in creating this webinar seamlessly. Thank you so much all. Thank you speakers. Thank you Naveen sir. And I think we're gonna do great in our upcoming new event, which you have recently announced. So I hope we're gonna do this on regular basis, and we shall collaborate. We shall do a lot of brainstorming of knowledge, and we shall be sharing our thoughts and ideas. Let's hope for the best. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, Anshul. I think this was an amazing summary of everything. Thank you so much. So, Seji, I think we can stop the broadcast now. We can switch to the banner. Just final reminder, we will very soon announce our next event to all the participants. So, thank you, Anshul. Thank you, Ashish, Mayur, Sumit, Seji, Debashish, sir, Shilpa, everyone on the call, I think, for putting in all the hard work, Team Confias and Team Tech2Go. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye. Take care. Thanks, Anshul.
Thanks a lot.